Mark Royce, Head of Product at GM, thank you so much for taking the time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and it's always great to see you, Ruben.
Now, GM obviously plagued by a massive ignition switch recall over the past year. What have you done to change the product development process to ensure safety?
I'll tell you what, first of all, our third-party safety ratings on our cars and trucks are pretty much leadership position here in the industry. So, this is something 10 years ago that was going on, and so we really took a really hard look at product development and really started from ground zero, both with people, the way we're organized, and then what are products really going to be in the future with connectivity, with things like lane departure, emergency braking. How do we design and execute those flawlessly so that we use and have those features that are absolutely defect-free for our customers? And so when you look at that and you look at the future, you say that we really have to take a systems approach to those, because not each component is the only thing you have to look at. You'll have to look at how they're integrated into the software and the user interface in the vehicle. And so if you're going to do that, you have to take a systems approach to how you engineer and design those component sets. And frankly, I don't think the industry has been doing that as much as it should for the future. So, traditionally silos of engineering would include chassis, interior, fuel systems, things like that are experts in those functions. But if you're going to integrate these and you're going to do world-class products that are defect-free, you have to have the system requirements that lead to the component requirements, so that when you validate the car, you're validating the whole car and not just a component. And so that ground up and groundbreaking transformation of our product development over the last year, frankly, has been incredible.
Now, you're unveiling 9 new models here at the auto show. You've got a new Cadillac, a new Camaro, a new Malibu. Those 3 lighter cars, is that a trend that's here to stay?
I don't think it's a trend. I think General Motors is leading the industry on that. And if you look at what we're doing on a regulatory basis, particularly for North America, and those requirements, and you look at around the world in places like China, those requirements are tending to mesh from a CO2 and fuel economy standpoint. So what that does for us as an industry is it enables us to meet those big global requirements one time with global vehicles. And so if you look across our portfolio, those the mass piece of that is the key to unlocking value for the customer, because we know that people aren't going to just fork over money for a big electrification program or a big diesel program or any of those silver bullets. They're going to look at the fundamental vehicle, and so we've got to get mass out of the vehicle, and we've got to do things like aluminum spot welding, which General Motors has pioneered, and we're now bringing into production on things like the rear gate of our utilities that we're selling today. And now you look at the CT6, we're using it extensively throughout the mixed metal strategy inside the body structure. So we have to innovate, and we have to develop those technologies that no one else has to be able to provide that kind of value.
When you look across the portfolio with all the new products that you're launching here, which one of those new products really embodies the future of GM design?
Well, from an aesthetic standpoint, I assume you're talking about, because there's a technology statement that we're making with the CT6 and a styling statement for the future of Cadillac with that vehicle. But then you look at a place in the mid-sized car segment, which is huge in the industry marketplace, where frankly General Motors has not had cars for a long time that were world-class, that were best in segment, that were winning. And so the Malibu we're going to introduce here in about an hour and a half, I think is breakthrough from every aspect, from the styling of that car. And this is a tough segment to do something different in styling that has wide appeal, that is very contemporary. So I'm very proud of the design team, both interior and exterior, that did the Malibu. Having said that, we took 300 pounds out of that car versus the old Malibu. All new powertrains, not just the hybrid that we have that's basically developed from some of the Volt technology that we used. It's got 80 cells of lithium-ion battery. It's a smaller, denser pack than our competitors that use nickel metal hydride. We get 47 miles per gallon on that hybrid that just cleans everybody's clock in the segment. It really centers around efficiency, mass, excellence in engineering, and looking to the future. So that car, from a technology standpoint that we're going to introduce, is second to none. But from a styling standpoint, I think I am so proud of the team that did that car, because it has an incredibly dramatic side, front, and rear from a graphic and design standpoint. The interior, I believe, is simple, elegant, and has features that no one has, like 4G LTE. No one else has a rolling hotspot. I think those are things we can be very proud of.
Lighter cars, more fuel efficiency. What does that mean for input costs when you're making a car, and what does that mean ultimately for the consumer? Lower prices on those cars?
I think taking the mass out of the car, if it's done from a value standpoint and using the materials on a mixed basis, carbon fiber, aluminum, steel, different grades of steel, magnesium, the trick is unlocking that fundamental architecture of the car to get the mass out of it, because people won't generally pay for 2 powertrains or more batteries. Those are big ticket items, at least for now in the industry. So we've got to be able to downsize powertrains. Roughly speaking, the Malibu has 1.5 liter on the new car versus a 2.5 liter on the old car. Roughly the same power and torque, 300 pounds lighter on the new car, a lot more fun to drive than the old car that had a little bit more horsepower and torque, but it was a heavier car. That's the key to unlock the value for the customer. The customer, generally speaking, isn't going to pay a lot more money for a bunch of features that don't really have immediate value for them. So it's our job to engineer and innovate different fastening technologies, high volume scale on mixed materials, which we're doing, and then we can downsize the powertrain, which takes mass and cost out of the car as well, but delivers a superior driving experience to a car that weighs more.
A lot of automakers using aluminum these days. You're using magnesium and carbon fiber. How are those input costs today? Are they increasing, or are you able to hold costs where they are?
That's a great question. It's a great question. And let's take carbon fiber, for example. If you look at carbon fiber, some of the advancements in carbon fiber include some of the thermoplastic, basically a gel type formula with carbon fiber in it that can be molded in different places. The fundamental material cost of the blanks of carbon fiber and the matrix that's produced for carbon fiber, people are willing to pay for a little bit of that to get the mass out that gives you better fuel economy and value. But what we haven't got out of the industry is the scale piece of carbon fiber. And so if we can get the cycle times right and we can get the commercial transportation costs of where those things are made and the transportation of those centralized on a footprint, we can take the commercial part out of it as we go into scale, and we can get those things to the value place that other materials like steel and some of the more common materials on plastics in a vehicle have been traditionally, because we know how to scale it in the industry and we know how to do that. So we got to get scale on some of those mixed materials to really get that cost out of it. But the fundamental raw material cost, we think we can handle that.
What are we going to see in the second quarter and the second half of the year?
I think the industry remains very strong. We're right around 17 here, 17 million units, which is very healthy. We're hitting stride from a cycle standpoint in the industry, and so we just got to be very diligent to make sure that we don't overspend and change our break-even points, which I think we are.
Mark Royce, Head of Product at GM, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ruben. Always a pleasure.